Hello and welcome back to Hydroponics Daily, your go-to podcast for everything soilless cultivation. I'm your host, Dr. Russell Sharp, the founder of Utrema Limited. And as a owner of a company that makes fertilizers, I often have to go to trade shows. And today I went to the trade show Glee, which sounds great, doesn't it? Glee sounds like that American TV program with the musical dancers and things like this. Nothing as exciting as that. No performances. It was a garden center goods, like for plant nurseries, or for supposedly garden centers, but actually it's just a load of Chinese tats and plastic ornaments and things like this. I went to see what was going on, see if there's any new products for the sort of horticultural amateur home and garden sector. And there wasn't really. There was a load of tat, as I say, a lot of plastic fountains, things like this. Disappointing. But I did see a really good greenhouse, which I think I'm probably going to buy for my home, which had really long, big glass panels rather than small glass panels. And yeah, came from Latvia. They're made in Latvia and they're really good. They're called Bloom Cabin. I think they sell them in America as well. And they do orangery style ones. So I'm probably going to go for one of those. Cost me a few grand, but I think it's a good investment for my garden. And then the other thing I saw, which is relevant to hydroponics, is a company called Bustaseed. And there's a couple of reasons I like Bustaseed. One is the name, obviously, because it reminds me of Buster Nut, the energy, was it an energy bar from Tropic Thunder? Let's have a look. Do you remember Buster Nut? Yeah, Buster Nut was a candy bar in Tropic Thunder. It was alongside Booty Sweat, the energy drink. So yeah, Bustaseed is the company. It's not American, despite the name, Bustaseed. Nothing to do with Buster Rhymes. It is a Northern Ireland company. I probably am going to descend into a Northern Ireland accent. That was terrible, Russell. Northern Ireland. I can't do it. What's the word that gets you into the Northern Ireland accent? I can't think. Oh, man. Yeah. Anyway, it's a company, Bustaseed, that manufacture seed trays. Seed trays? Yeah, so like seed modules. You put your grow media in, and then you plant your seeds in them, and away they go. They germinate, and then you pull your plants out, and that's it. So sounds simple. Sounds like it's not reinventing the wheel, but it's interesting because the trays all come apart, and they're all in like strips, and so you can easily remove your seedlings or your cuttings if you're doing cuttings in them, and you don't need to poke them out or pull them out. And that's critical, especially with seedlings and cuttings, because they're so delicate, the young plants, that they get damaged if you are poking with a pen out the bottom of the drainage hole, or you're pulling them up by the stem or the leaves. Really stresses the plants. It's transplant shock is one of the biggest stresses the plants get throughout its whole lifetime. And if you're growing plants that they respond really badly to transplant shock, like carrots, leeks, cabbages, legal cannabis. So like a lot of them will flower as soon as they've been stressed really badly, or in the case of legal cannabis, might change sex if you stress it. Then this is really critical transplant shock. Or you could a lot of plants, you literally just pull the roots away from the stems if you're not careful, especially cuttings. And also the ability to pull these little units out, these little magazines of like a magazine of rounds of ammo out of your seed tray and look at the roots as they develop means that you can monitor rooting and say, actually, they've rooted now, it's time to go, or no, they need a couple more weeks, without having to pull a cutting out and rip a load of delicate roots off it and say, oh yeah, that had rooted. I've just completely effed it in the A by doing that. But yeah, so yeah, it's a really good option. Now, it's not the only people who've come up with this sort of pull apart propagation tray system in the world, but it's a good one because they're robust and they're reusable. So they're not made of cheap floppy plastic like most propagation trays. They're made of hard, durable plastics that are recyclable. They're made in Northern Ireland, so they're not brought in from China and stuff like that. So they're made in Northern Ireland by a plastic company, Plastics 2000, which sounds good, doesn't it? Plastics 2000, and they're based in County Antrim. What else can we say about them? So the other company that their sort of main competitor type product is called Root Trainers. Root Trainers are really good. They've been around. I first came across Root Trainers, introduced to them by my colleague Adrian Stockdale in Northampton about 2010, something like that. And they're really long propagation modules that pull apart into two. in a very similar way. And they're really good for tree seedlings because they really, and anything where you want a really long tap root. So they're much taller than a normal propagation tray. And so they're really good for tree seedlings or anything where you want a really strong tap root. But the disadvantage of the root trainer is they were quite flimsy and very, very thin plastic, and they didn't sit well in the propagation tray. Whereas the Bustaseed option looks a lot more snazzy. It sits well in a normal seed tray, and you would imagine that you could get 50 grows easily out of a Bustaseed system, whereas a root trainer, it's probably going to fall apart and break at the bottom after a few goes. So I really like it. It's almost IKEA-esque. Remember the old IKEA hydroponic systems? Very similar to that. So check out bustaseed.co.uk. Busta, as in Busta, seed.co.uk. All right, shout out to companies that are doing good things in horticulture, and hopefully they'll get into hydroponics. Maybe one of the distributors will see Bustaseeds at Glee and decide that that's the show for them. There's some interesting trade shows where I have to go to. I'm going to one in a couple of weeks called Saltex, and it's for all the people who, well, a major section of it is for people who like cut the grass, cut the turf and the lawn for councils and local government and things like that. And they've got a famous English rugby player who's doing electronic house music DJ sets, which seems bonkers. I don't know how that mashup has worked, but yeah, I'll have to be going to that. So yeah, check out Saltex, which is the one I'm going to soon. I prefer to go to hydroponics trade shows. So if you run a hydroponic trade show and you'd like to invite me on an all expenses paid trip to MJ BizCon or Green Tech or Fruit Logistica, all these trade shows, vertical farming conferences, things like this, then, hit me up with some first class tickets and some 5-star hotels. If you don't run a trade show, then the best thing that you can do for me is leave me a rated review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean the world to me because I would shoot up the charts and we'd get hydroponics in the top 10 of gardening podcasts in the UK, in America, in Australia. That would be fantastic. Canada as well, yeah. We've nearly closed in on every single state in the US now with a listener. Let me just check. West Virginia is my holdout state. What is it about the people of West Virginia that hate me so much, hate hydroponics? And Puerto Rico. I haven't got any listeners in Puerto Rico, if you consider that a state of the United States. They certainly come on the map anyway. Even tiny little Delaware and Rhode Island, places like this. And we finally got North Dakota. All the northern territories of Canada, I'm struggling for, especially Uranium City, my favourite place in the whole world. Uranium City, come on. Australia, again, just the northern territories I'm waiting for. And then in Germany, I have a really weird split where I have loads of listeners in West Germany and then hardly any listeners in East Germany. So the states of Mecklenburg-Vorpommern and Sachsen-Anhalt, and yeah, there's the last two states in Germany that are holding out for me. Jätmaland in Sweden, that's a holdout place. Varland in Sweden. That's about it. Oh, right, you're bored silly. Sorry about that. You might notice I've got a deeper, richer voice today. That's because I've got a sore throat. So unfortunately, my deep, sexy voice will not be with you hopefully not tomorrow. I'll be much better then, but maybe it will be. All right, enough waffle. Thank you very much for listening to me talking about Bustaseed, the new propagation unit. I'm not being paid for this, by the way. They should send me some units for free, shouldn't they? Bustaseed from Northern Ireland, a innovative new propagation tray that will help you grow plants without stressing them out with transplant stock. The good thing about this is if you're growing plants that have mycorrhizal fungi, reusing your propagation trays is really good because it seeds the plants with mycorrhiza from the previous plants. So things like conifers, you always want to reuse your trays. If you're growing something like cyclamen or something that suffers really badly with bacterial diseases, then you want to sterilize your trays and make sure you don't reseed them with microbial mass from the previous plants. But for some tree plants and things like hops and legal cannabis and what other plants strongly mycorrhizal, rhododendrons, any shrubs, you probably do want to reseed them with mycorrhiza. So Bustaseed is probably a good bet for you there as well. Don't completely sterilize your grow trays. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Until next time. Goodbye.